Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how are we doing today?
Well, we're doing a lot better than a couple weeks, but playoffs are here, man.
The playoffs are here, but before we get into any of that, we just want to first start by giving you the latest status on Damar Hamlin. As of this recording, Damar is now free from the hospital, and he's heading home back with his family. And this was the best news to hear all week.
Yeah, it was said at about 12 o'clock noon today that he was released from Buffalo General Medical Facility. Doctors are saying he made incredible milestones in record time when it comes to an injury like this. Hats off to you, Damar. You are a true soldier. Glad you're going home.
Yeah, and it was honestly all the love to Damar Hamlin and your family, man. We wish you nothing but the best and the best recovery. And it was really great to see the football community come together this week to really celebrate Damar's life and just cherish him as a person.
Yeah, but we as a community need to stick together at this point in time because as of right now, Peyton Hillis is still in intensive care.
Mm-hmm.
About a week ago, he saved his children from drowning in Florida in the ocean. And he's having complications with his kidneys at this point in time. So as a community, we need to still stick together and now move those prayers to Peyton Hillis and hope for him.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know Peyton Hillis, he was a former running back for the Cleveland Browns. He's a retired player as of this year, and he's been retired for a while now. But we need to, like you said, we need to band together and really give our best prayers and love to Peyton Hillis because he needs the love too, man.
Yeah, he did some heroic things, saving both of his kids, and I believe it was his wife as well, who were caught in a riptide in the ocean in Florida, and he suffered the consequences. So keep him in your thoughts as well.
So as a football community, we are all here for Damar. We are all here for Peyton Hillis, and for any player that is hurt or injured and stuff, we wish you all the love, man, because there's a lot of good people within this football community. So all the love to Damar, all the love to Peyton Hillis. So with that being said, let's move on to, before we get into our playoff news, we do want to give a congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs in college football beating the TCU Bullfrogs, is it?
Horned Toads.
Horned Toads. Congrats to Georgia winning their back-to-back title in the finals. Any thoughts on this game? It was 65-7.
65-7. Texas Christian absolutely just didn't belong there. I wanted to see them pull the Cinderella story, but they just didn't belong there. They had no business being on the field.
It was 38-7 at halftime. It was just a complete blowout. But congrats to Georgia.
2 in a row.
We'll be seeing a lot of Georgia players coming to the NFL and to
their quarterback, man.
So, hey, that's a lot to talk about in the offseason. But before we get to the offseason, we have some good football games to talk about. So we're going to actually bypass our Week 18 recap. We're going to be talking about every team that made it to the playoffs. For the teams that we didn't talk about, they have been eliminated. So, as much as we wanted to see the Steelers and the Lions make it to the playoffs, it just happens, man. So
we'll be paying close attention to them in the off season.
Absolutely. So let's start with we're going to go in consecutive games, and instead of making our picks at the very end, we're going to be talking about these games and then making our picks at the end of each discussion. So let's start with the Saturday night mid-game, the Seattle Seahawks coming in at the 7th seed against the 49ers. So Chris Palmer, take us to San Fran.
All right. Well, Seattle's going into San Francisco. Geno Smith is on a career year. This is going to be an interesting game. I think this is going to be a lot closer than anybody really expects. But then you got to look over at San Francisco with Deebo Samuel coming back. Christian McCaffrey is finally healthy, consistent games throughout the year. And fucking Brock Purdy, man. Mr. Irrelevant showing why he can own a locker room. You know, they got a lot of things to think about in San Francisco as to who's going to carry the helm after this year. Brock Purdy's putting in a really good argument that this is his team.
Man, the 49ers just look like a juggernaut
They're lethal
on all cylinders. The number one defense. Brock Purdy, like you said, shout out to Brock Purdy, man. He is Mr. Relevant. He is showing why he is relevant, and honestly, again, he's doing what was asked of Jimmy G, but better
because he can stay healthy.
Because he can stay healthy, and he has that young mobility. He's got fresh knees, as they say. So
he's got fresh legs.
He's got them fresh legs. But even still, they don't rely on him that much. Like you said, they rely on their playmakers like Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and like you said, now coming back with the healthy Deebo Samuel. The 49ers are getting healthy at the right time, and it's crazy to think about that this is going to be the third matchup by both teams. And so when they met up first in week 2. That was when Trey Lance got hurt and Jimmy G filled in.
Mm-hmm.
And then they played again around week 13, 14, 15, around there on Thursday Night Football in Seattle. And the 49ers still took care of business. Now, that was a closer game. That was a one-score game. But the line on this game, according to Vegas, is about 11 points. So the San Francisco 49ers are favored by 11 points. They are heavy favorites. They just look like the team to beat in the NFC.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to see a San Francisco NFC Championship. I feel like they're front runners for the NFC Championship this year.
Yeah.
They're on autopilot. Been saying it for weeks. They are the single most versatile offensive roster in the league, and it's not close. Having so many players that can play in so many different offensive positions and still be incredibly effective is the reason why they have the step ahead of a lot of teams in this league, on top of having Kyle Shanahan, he's really developing into one of the greatest minds on the sideline to coach a team.
Yeah. He
is bound just to win games and beat people up. But again, Pete Carroll, man, I don't want to sleep on Seattle. They are a team that you just don't want to play.
They have overachieved the season, and in the best way possible, because no one saw this coming from Geno Smith. And also they have a lot of young guys from their draft. Michael Jackson, Kobe Bryant, but more important, Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker's playing great.
Who is an emerging star. He's coming back healthy too. So there's a lot of great young players in Seattle, a lot of young talent. And honestly, as much as San Fran is favored in this game, Seattle is going to fight in this game.
This is one of those teams that you just don't want to see in the postseason.
Oh, no, absolutely not. So with that being said, Chris Poma, I turn to you and say who you got for this game.
I think I'm going to go San Francisco. I think they're more equipped to win.
Okay.
They're on such a high. A lot of people know, you got to be on a streak going into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Both teams are on a streak. San Francisco is on multiple streaks. Mm-hmm. They're on a multiple game win streak. Quarterback's on a multiple game streak of throwing more than one touchdown. Defense is on multiple streaks of turnovers. So they're on a huge high right now. How about you?
I'm taking San Francisco as well for all the things you're saying too, where you want to go into the playoff streaking, you want to play your best football in December and January. That's when you typically want to play your best football. But I do have to say this has been a fantastic season for the Seahawks, and even though it's probably going to end in San Francisco, you guys impressed the hell out of the league, and you really put everyone on notice. And they have. Was it the third overall pick because of the Denver Broncos?
Yep.
So Seattle, they are going to reload this offseason, and I just want to say I'm so glad I was wrong on my midseason prediction. So, but with that being said, I'm still taking San Francisco because they are just primed to win.
I agree.
So with that being said, let's move on to the second Saturday night game. The Los Angeles Chargers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Woo! This is going to be good.
This game is going to be a barn burner. You want to talk about being on a streak? Look at the streak Jacksonville is on, man. They are on a tear. They are just beating teams up. Trevor Lawrence is finally getting into his own. The offensive line is finally in unison. Jacksonville still has a couple of issues on the defense. They still need a couple more weapons, I feel, for Trevor Lawrence to get the ball to. A running back would be great. Give that team a running back. They're a whole different dynamic.
Well, they have Travis Etienne.
Yeah, but I feel like they need a second. You know, the two back teams in the league now are the ones that really take the step ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've been talking about it since last year, the two-headed snake. You know, you look at Cleveland when it was Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. You know, you look over even in Dallas when it's Tony Pollard and Zeke.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the single back teams that could really kind of do it. You know, you have Carolina when they had Christian McCaffrey. Now they have no one.
Now they have Chuba Hubbard, and who's not bad. Not too bad, but also to your point, Tennessee is a one running back team.
Derrick Henry.
But then you look at how San Francisco is with the dynamic of
Brandon Ayuk.
Well, not Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell.
Right.
And then also in Miami with Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert as well.
Right.
So there are teams that do it differently. I think you're right. I think Jacksonville needs a little bit more depth offensively. But they have been playing very well. The Chargers have been playing well, even though they did lose last week to the Broncos. But, divisional games, crazy things happen. But honestly, this game is going to be very good. And one of the most fascinating games of the weekend because both teams, we know what they are. And this weekend, actually, every team has played each other. This is a rematch weekend. It's a wild card weekend, but it's rematch weekend.
Yeah, every team has played at least once.
But these teams, the last time they played, it was week 3, if I'm not mistaken, when the Chargers got hurt the week prior.
That was when Justin Herbert fractured his ribs, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so now we're playing with a healthy Justin Herbert.
Healthy-ish.
Going up against a red-hot Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some fireworks.
Now Justin Herbert is healthy-ish, but Mike Williams got hurt last week against the Broncos.
Okay.
So Mike Williams, who's a very key part in that offense too, because they are very dynamic on that Chargers offense. They run it with a 2 running back set between Austin Eckler and Sonny Michel. And they do a great job establishing the run to open up the pass game later on with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and also Gerald Everett as well. And Jason Palmer as well as the slot receiver. So they have a loaded offensive team. And I think the Jags, they're not as loaded, but they're very coordinated. Doug Peterson has an identity for that team where it's, again, we're going to lean on the talent of Trevor Lawrence. We're going to make sure that we need a little bit more depth. The offensive line is playing very well right now. They're playing their best football in the year. And like we said prior, you want to be playing your best football in December and January. So it's great to see. Although I will say that last game against the Titans did have me a little concerned for the Jags because their offense was installed the whole game and it took a defensive play for the whole game to change. Right. Because the Titans were pretty much kind of controlling a little bit. They took the lead, and Jacksonville, once that strip sack fumble on Joshua Dobbs, and then Josh Allen on the Jags picked it up and ran it right in for the touchdown. So if it wasn't for a defensive play, the Jags would not be in the playoffs.
Right.
So it really took a Herculean team effort to do it. So I will say, their offense is not as consistent as I would like it to be, but again, they're playing complementary football, and I think that's what's really going to help the Jags if they are to make a playoff push against the Chargers.
If I'm not mistaken, I think they have an early first-round pick too.
The Jags, I believe they might be top 10 or just on the cusp of it, but
yeah, they have a relatively early first-round.
Well, they won't be drafting first.
No, they won't be drafting first overall.
That honor goes to Chicago.
And thank you, Chicago, for giving us your first-round draft pick for Chase Claypool. I'm just going to say that one out loud.
I think it's a second-round draft pick.
It was
because they have the first overall.
They have the first overall. We have a 17th, round 1, 17.
Okay, even better.
It was a conditional first round, and then we were supposed to get the 32nd pick, but because Miami was stripped of that pick, there's only 31 picks in the first round this year.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
So.
Okay. So the Jags will not be drafted first, but honestly, the they're one of those teams that prove that, look, if you pick the right guys, the right young guys in the draft, you can make a good team. You can make a great team.
You can make a great team.
And honestly, the Jags are a team that's on the rise. It's like what we've been saying with the Lions. There's something special in Jags. They're right there. Now, do I think that they can go on a magical run this season? No, they're not. This year. That Titans game really proved to me that they can be outcoached.
Give it 3 years, and we'll probably see Jacksonville heading towards a divisional title.
The return of Saxonville.
So, Jonathan, I'll turn to you.
Mm-hmm.
Who you got?
Man, that's tough. I've been thinking about all these games this entire day, just back and forth in my mind. I'm leaning towards the Chargers, even though they're not 100% healthy. I like the coaching matchup between Brandon Staley and Doug Peterson. I like the personnel and the depth that the Chargers have. I'm going to take the Chargers. Who you got?
I'm going to go with Jacksonville. I like the tear that they're on. I feel like they could win a playoff game.
Okay.
And because the Chargers in the playoffs is kind of uncharted territory, we're going into brand new territory for both of these teams. However, Trevor Lawrence has been on some of the biggest stages in college.
Yes, he absolutely has.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he knows postseason pressure. I don't know that Justin Herbert knows postseason pressure like that.
Well, it's his first time in the playoffs in the NFL, so we shall see.
I believe he played in Oregon. And I don't believe Oregon made the playoffs while he was a quarterback in college. So that might weigh in there.
Hey, we shall see. But this is going to be one of the better matchups this wild card weekend. But let's move on to Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Sunday, the 1 o'clock, the early window. Oh, man. I think the 3 words that define this game are simply Tua is out.
Round 3 is not looking good for Miami.
No.
Off the jump because he's out. Allen's hurt. Allen's still in. Tua's gone, and they're starting their rookie.
Mm-hmm. Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, Skylar Thompson is going to start.
Yeah, Teddy B is going to be.
He's still out.
He's going to be backup. He's eligible to return, but he's not going to be starting.
Okay, so, and then you also have Mike Glennon now on the roster.
Yeah,
just in case. Things are not looking good right now for Miami going into this game. As much as we have a soft spot for Miami, I think this one's pretty quick. This is just a complete and total outmatch right now.
I think this matchup, the way we perceive this matchup, is that everyone is thinking Buffalo. Everyone is thinking Buffalo.
Especially now because Tyreek is hurt too.
Vegas says Buffalo is a 14-point favorite over Miami. Now, consider this. A couple weeks ago, Christmas weekend, they played a great game in Buffalo in the snow. Mm-hmm. And it was ultimately the Bills 32-29. It was a back and forth type of game. And the winner of that would really cement who had the division. Miami at the time was a game back, and to think this was, again, just less than a month ago, and to think how the NFL kind of has 2 seasons within one season, where it's like the first half we've seen teams be fantastic, go on a rip roar, and then the second half of the season we see teams just kind of disappear into what they are, either due to injury or they just fade out.
It's
teams.
The cold. It's can you play in the cold?
It's the cold. It's also the additional film that teams are getting they are acquiring from the other team. And I think for Miami, the real turning point of their season was that Sunday night game against the Chargers. That was probably the turning point because, the week prior they played the 49ers. And I think you and I, we touched on it, where Kyle Shanahan, they kind of had a blueprint for Miami, and that other teams followed suit since then, where you're 2 high safeties and you play man-to-man coverage and you press on the wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. And it has disrupted the timing of Miami's offense, because Miami's offense is predicated on specific timing.
It's on speed.
It's on speed. It's on speed, it's on timing, it's on precise windows, it's very articulate. So if you disrupt them, they're not going to be the same offense, and they don't have, like we talked about, they have a two-headed Hydra, but it's not really a lethal Hydra in Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. So they're good, but they're not good enough to win games in Miami. It's Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Those are the guys that are going to determine who
wins.
Who wins. And against Buffalo, it's hard to play against a team 3 times because they know what you're trying to do. You know what they're trying to do.
Right. Now it's just who's better.
Who's better.
And again, because this is a divisional matchup round 3, it's just that much more up on the charts. And to your point, when it comes to the two-headed Hydra, that is not lethal in Miami. That comes from a lack of offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
They have no push up front, so they can't get to the second level. And going up against Buffalo's front 7, not being able to give a push and give your quarterback, now, especially now that he's going to be a rookie going up against a bunch of seasoned veterans on Buffalo.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're going to talk about Tre'Davious White. And my dude's going to have a game.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have a day, especially if Tyreek winds up not playing this game. Remember, he got hurt last week with an ankle injury.
Yep.
He went out, I think it was early third quarter,
mm-hmm.
or right before that, it was late second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And he never came back. So he sits out this game. It's real issues because now you're down to one huge weapon in Jalen Waddle, and I'm not taking anything away. You need to be versatile against Buffalo. You cannot be a one-way street. And as dynamic as Miami can be, like you were saying, they are based on speed.
Mm-hmm.
They are based on speed and beating your man. And Buffalo is that in-your-face defense that's not going to allow you to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to scratch and claw and fight you every step of the way until you do, and by then you're going to have to force a catch.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do so happen to catch it, they're going to stop you right then and there when you catch that ball. They're not going to let you take off.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is an outmatch for Buffalo.
I think in the NFL, and I guess in life too, history repeats itself. History just seems to repeat itself. And this reminds me of last year for Buffalo. Because last year they played against a divisional opponent that they split the difference with. In one game was an upset that no one saw coming in the Patriots. In the win game, 14-3. It was, or 14-10, I'm sorry. It was, but it was the win game where Mac Jones only threw 3 times. Belichick ran it 40 times. The second game was, Buffalo took it easily, fine. And then the third game was the wild card matchup in the playoffs. And it was just Buffalo demonstrating perfect execution. They scored on every single drive that they had. And I think, honestly, we're not going to see that this weekend, but we are going to see Buffalo have perfect execution this week. Damn near perfect because, again, they're still – they have a lot to play for with DeMar being out and that emotional ride. They are focused, they are driven, and they, honestly – I'm making my pick now. I'm picking Buffalo.
Yeah, I can't not pick Buffalo. Miami's asking way too much of a rookie right now. They're asking way too much going into this game.
Yeah, this is
his second career start as a playoff game.
Mm-hmm. I do want to see what Miami does in the offseason. I want to see what they do if they invest in Tua in the offseason and invest more in this Miami team. Invest in not only the offensive line, but you need a better defense as well. And they do, especially in their front 7. They need a better front 7, and I think that's a big concern for Miami. So let's see what Miami does going forward in the offseason. The Buffalo, they have a lot to play for this week.
Yes, they do.
So let's move on to the Sunday midday game between the Giants and the Vikings. I love this game. This is going to be a fantastic game.
I love this game. This game is like it's a mirror match, I feel. This is a very, very tough team in the Giants on defense versus one of the most lethal offenses in the league. It's mostly because Justin Jefferson is just that caliber of player this year.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out Justin Jefferson, MVP caliber year. Shout out Daniel Jones too, man. He's holding his own. Being able to lead that offense with Saquon Barkley
Mm-hmm.
to a playoff to a playoff game, good on you. I still unfortunately don't think you're the guy in New York. I feel like again this is more of a report card year for him.
Mm-hmm.
This is a resume year. Maybe they'll franchise tag him for a year, stack on another great year, bring him to it. If you bring them to further than the wild card next year, maybe they'll extend you.
Mm-hmm.
This is a glimpse of what you could be. If this is your ceiling, which is playoff runs, we can invest in that and bring it further.
Mm-hmm.
Talking long term with the Giants. Flip it over to Minnesota. Kirk Cousins is having a great year.
Oh yeah,
he is not going to be in the league much longer.
He's got, I would say, another 3 to 4 years, honestly.
Right, and if he doesn't get past the playoffs now, you now have to start thinking of post Kirk Cousins. Because again, your team is now primed and ready to win. That would almost turn into like a Green Bay situation, where now you have a veteran who's now post prime, can't really get you over the hump in the postseason. Now we have to think about after him. Now, I don't think Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers are the same mentality. If Kirk Cousins needed to pass the torch, I would hope he would, without a fuss, because he knows like this is my kryptonite here, and pretty much it's prime time.
Yeah,
prime time is his kryptonite.
It's a solo stage game,
right? It always has been. So thankfully, this game is played at 4:30. So there's more of a chance for Minnesota. The fact that that's a statistical fact, that there's more of a chance for Minnesota to win because it's not in prime time, is an issue.
It's, yeah. I mean, if this was a 1 o'clock game, they would probably be favored into
right.
heavy favorites towards.
Right. And that's where it comes into fault on Kirk Cousins, because that team can play at any point, but he gets into his own head at different times, and it's very noticeable. And like you were saying just before, when it comes to the amount of film, you can see where the flaws are in the afternoon now. And the Giants are very young and they're a very smart team. Brian Daboll is a very smart coach. He's going to show every 4:30 game that Minnesota has played from then to now. And they're going to eat up every single flaw that Kirk Cousins has as a quarterback in the afternoon. And there's a few.
Well, I will say the last solo stage game for Minnesota was the comeback. Was that 33-point comeback. Now, I will say this year, the Vikings are 11-1 in one-score games.
Right.
That is, I believe that might be an NFL record of 11 one-score wins in a single season, because that's impressive. That's really impressive. And I will say, when I look at both teams, obviously it's a pair of 8s. 8 Daniel Jones, 8 Kirk Cousins, so it's a pair of 8s. But both teams are constructed a little differently, where the Vikings they remind me of the Chargers, where they have great offensive depth, but the thing with the difference is, like, they have great talent around the quarterback. Obviously, the Chargers, Herbert and Cousins, they're completely two different quarterbacks. Obviously, Herbert, I would say, is better. But Kirk Cousins still, he gets it done. He definitely gets it done. But I more so in offensive depth. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne. And then you have TJ Hawkinson, Dalvin Cook, and Madison at running back as well. So you have great offensive depth that can score points. And I think last week, week 18, they played against the Bears. It was 29-13, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously the Bears, they were the worst team in the league. We understand that. But Minnesota executed very well. I don't think many people saw the highlights in that. It's Minnesota can execute very well and very efficiently. And they have a great balance on offense. Their defense leaves a lot to be desired.
Yes.
And that's concerning. And it's crazy because they have great defensive players, but they don't always play cohesively week in and week out. Right. And they have Patrick Peterson, Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks, Daniil Hunter. You have these great defensive players in every unit of their defense.
Do they still have Anthony Barr?
No, he's on the Cowboys.
Okay.
He's on the Cowboys. Um, but you have great defensive players, but they don't play great week in and week out. And the Giants are a team where it's like they can really only win one way in low scoring affair games. When these teams played last time, I believe it was um, the weekend of Christmas, that Christmas Day weekend, and it came. It was a close game. Minnesota took a lead, and then the Giants made the comeback. They kept it low. They really played good cohesive defense, kept it low, and it came down to a Minnesota last second field goal to win. So the Giants are going to play it close, and they're like the opposite of the Vikings, where they play consistent defense, but they don't have great offensive depth.
Right.
And
they
so
have trouble putting points on the board.
It's these teams match up so well against each other that it really does deserve a round two.
I like that this is a round two. I'm excited for this game. This is going to be one of the best games of the weekend, I feel.
Absolutely. And if it was in prime time, this would be a totally different game. But tell me, Chris Palmer, who you got?
You know what? I think I'm going to stretch my arm out to New York on this one. I feel like New York can win a playoff game. I'm going to give them the upset over Minnesota.
Ooh, okay. And so with that, you're predicting that the Giants go to Philly for round 3. If San Fran wins,
yeah,
so
that's pretty much what I'm saying, is that the Giants will see Philly for round 3.
Ooh, man, I'm taking the Vikings. Honestly, it's going to be hard to beat a team twice that's not in your same division. It's hard to even beat a team twice within your own division, but these teams match up so well. But I just think the Vikings, they really like each other. They play great team football.
Yeah.
And when they're clicking, they are clicking. So I'm going to take the Vikings. I'm going to take the Giants. But either way, this is going to be a fantastic game to watch.
One of the best games of Wild Card Weekend we're going to see is right there in Minnesota.
Absolutely. So let's move on to the Sunday night primetime between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals.
And you want to talk about 3 words to describe Miami? I'm going to give you 3 words to describe this game. Lamar is out.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeesh.
So can I start with this one? Our season ends here in Cincinnati. I'll be honest. So, but I'll tell you why it ends in Cincinnati. Because since Lamar has been out, the Ravens have not managed to score 17 points in a game. However, our defense has been phenomenal. Our defense under Roquan Smith, who we just gave a 5-year contract extension for $100 million. So, Ravens, it looks like we have the money, but it doesn't look like we want to pay Lamar. Fucking pay Lamar. But nevertheless, for this game in particular, like we'll talk plenty of Lamar in the offseason, believe me. We'll address that. But for this game in particular, we just played against the Bengals. We lost 27-13. It was not a pretty game to watch. We gave up Anthony Brown was our starting quarterback, and we gave up 3 turnovers, and the Bengals had 21 points off of our turnovers, and it was so disheartening to watch. I love our defense, but man, our offense is just so inept. It reminds me of the 2015 season when Flacco was hurt and we had Ryan Mallett at a quarterback.
I remember that one.
And so it's not looking pretty. The Bengals, they look, as much as I hate the Bengals,
they're primed to win a Super Bowl.
I love Joe Burrow, man. He's a great quarterback, but he's also a great person too. He's a fantastic person. And I will say he's just playing on a whole nother level right now. And as much as I have confidence in our defense, the Bengals, they know what we're about. We know what they're about. And round 3, it's not going to be pretty.
No. And just to backtrack a little bit on that $100 million contract, there goes Lamar's money. They just paid Roquan Smith $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
They are not going to throw another $200 million at one player. They just are not.
They could, but they philosophically hate that.
They just won't do it.
Eric DaCosta is vehemently against it.
Especially now, because this is 2 years in a row, backstretch of the year, he has been hurt to the point where he misses playoff games.
or misses games just
misses
entirely.
games.
Yeah, because we didn't even make the playoffs last year.
Last year was an ankle injury, and now this year is a knee injury, and now you're still asking for that amount of money. Sorry, no. As a franchise, if they were to pay him that much money, it'd be stupid.
You know what it is for me? It's if we wanted to pay Lamar, we would have done it already.
Correct.
We would have done it already. But the fact is, we haven't done it because
it's too much.
Steve Bisciotti and Eric DeCosta were just vehemently against it. Now, let me ask you this: what do you think the Ravens should do this offseason? Because that's the big question for the Ravens.
They need to negotiate with Lamar. They have. That's a must. If you guys don't negotiate with him and he hits the market this year,
well, we can franchise tag him.
Correct, you can, and then you have to pay him $95 million outright.
Yes,
and it could go to him. Who else is on a free agent contract?
Well, we have a choice. Like we can do it because it's on his rookie deal that we just can franchise tag.
Right, but who else is on a free agency year this year? Who's on a contract year this year?
I don't know off the top of my head, but right. I'm guessing a few because
there's got to be more than just him on contract years. So if there's someone who is willing to take less money than his franchise tag, which would be about $95 million, you sign 2 or 3 other players, you let him hit the market. He's just too expensive. He is a big bill. Would it be unfortunate for Baltimore? It would be a head spin. You guys would go into a downward spiral and straight into a rebuild. That's the unfortunate reality of getting rid of Lamar. You have your franchise guy. If you let him go, it's unfortunate, but the thing is, it's just he's too expensive. It would turn into a choke situation like Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay.
So let me ask you again, what should the Ravens do?
It's hard. It's hard. The Ravens really should find a way to negotiate
and try to keep Lamar to their best of ability.
Yes, but if all else fails, sometimes it hurts less to let go than to hang on.
Yeah, I mean, best case scenario, we sign him.
Best case scenario, you guys come to some form of agreement, but you can almost guarantee that with the $100 million extension on Roquan Smith, Lamar Jackson's not happy.
No,
he's like out front. He's like, good shit, Roquan, you got yours. In the back of his mind, he's like,
you got some money in the bank. I see you got money in the bank.
He's literally watching you flash all this money around, and he's like, what the fuck? Where's mine?
Yeah.
Where is mine? And I asked for the same amount of time. I just want more money, but the issue is that fully guaranteed.
Yeah, that's the big issue.
Especially because he's already turned down a contract that was, I believe it was $195 million.
No, it was $150.
We also turned down more than that because it was a signing bonus as well.
Well, I know on definite reports it was $150 million guaranteed before the season. I know maybe the week prior before the season it may have reached 190, but it was not confirmed through sourcing.
All right. Well,
but nevertheless, Ravens need to get your shit together.
Because if you allow this man to go into free agency,
and honestly, I personally feel that Lamar, I don't blame him for not wanting to play because he's got to look out in the best interest of him, and we see that every week that we have to remind ourselves every week that these players come out there and they risk their lives to play this game, and it's like I do not fault any player wanting to get their money because with just how the NFL is and the money printing machine that it is, players do deserve their money for long-term financial compensation because they risk their lives every week.
100%. But on the other side of that coin, you can't help but understand why a franchise will look at the person and realize you physically are not worth that to my franchise.
And that's the thing.
That's not me calling your worth as a human being now. I'm not saying your life isn't worth it. That's me saying for my franchise, it is not a good financial decision for me to invest that much money in you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's a nuanced conversation.
Right. It's a nuanced conversation. It's more irreverent than anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not I'm taking away your worth as a person. It's I need to look at this as a business standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
You are a client in my business.
Yep.
And if we can't come to a contracted negotiation, you will be a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to bring that number down, or people really won't want to negotiate with you.
Yeah, and so it's Ravens, get your shit together, man. That's the thing. Like this whole ordeal it's not black and white. It's got multiple shades of gray.
There's layers to it.
There's so many layers to it. There's so many shades of gray to it. And like I said, we'll get more into this in the offseason. But I'm picking the Bengals to just beat the Ravens. As much as I hate the Bengals, I got to be honest here. They're just clearly the better team this weekend.
Yeah, they've been the better team all season. Cincinnati, and they're going to win by 10 or more. It's going to be ugly.
It's going to be ugly. So, with that being said, that was the final Sunday night game. We're moving on to the Monday night game, the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Woo, man. This is a rematch from week 1.
I can't believe we're seeing another postseason with Tom Brady in it. And
is it surprising?
I mean, when you look at it, with just how bad he's played, it's almost surprising. But with just how weak that division is, it's of course he's playing Dallas on a downward spin, playing terrible late this year. 7 straight games. I saw a stat today. It was Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
He's on a 7-game streak of having 1 or more interceptions.
Yeah,
he's tied for the most in the league,
and he missed 5 less games.
5 games.
Mm-hmm.
Not playing good.
I think honestly, when we think of the Cowboys, obviously we know Tampa has not had the best season, but they, that game against the Panthers, week 16 or week 17, it was the game they needed to in order to get into the playoffs. Last week they played against the Falcons. They lost. Tom Brady played for a quarter. Mike Evans wasn't feeling too well, so he sat. But Brady played for a quarter, and Todd Bowles says, "Hey, look, we're pulling the plug on it. We're just gonna bench you. We need you for next week." I do know that Tampa, some players are getting a little healthier now for Tampa, but they did hurt their center, Howard, I believe is his name. But I think Ryan Jensen may come back this week.
Okay.
So Ryan Jensen is their former Pro Bowl center who got hurt preseason. So he may be coming back this week. So, and Dallas, they are, I guess, as healthy as they can be. Now, both teams, they're completely different, and their seasons went totally different how we thought they would come week 1. Yeah. After week 1, we thought Dallas was dead in the water, and Tampa was just, they looked like juggernauts. But no, Tampa was 8-9. Yeah. They did not win a lot of games. They lost a lot of games. But we've seen in spurts this year of Brady making comebacks, and just like he did it against the Saints, twice. He did it against the Rams. He played well against Seattle. He did it against the Panthers. So we've seen Brady play great in spurts, but obviously their team has a lot to be desired. As a team, Tampa, they're dead last in running the ball. Their defense is getting healthier a little bit, but they're not that good on defense. Obviously, they're without Shaq Barrett, but they still have Devin White and Levante David. So, actually, no, Devin White, I believe, is out. He's still injured because he got injured, I believe, if not the Ravens game, the week after or so. Okay. But either way, Tampa's a little hurt into this, but, man, Dallas, they're not hurt, but
they're just not playing well.
They're not playing well. And sometimes it's not the fact that you lose, but how you lose.
Right.
And especially they played the Commanders week 18 last week, and they lost 26-6. It was
ass whooping.
It was bad. Dak Prescott threw a costly pick 6, and the Dallas offense was just stalled. They could not run the ball.
They couldn't get anything.
They could not run the ball, and I think Dak had 150 passing yards.
Right.
And so it was they were neutered as an offense. They were severely neutered, and it's it's crazy because they have one of the best offenses. Like we've seen them score points, but when it matters, they just can't seem to get out of their own way.
And it always seems with Dallas, it happens at the end of the year.
Yeah.
They shoot themselves in the foot time in and time out come Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
From Thanksgiving to January, they are just a different team. And it's, this was like a tale of 3 seasons for Dallas. In the beginning, they looked lost. Mid-tier of the season, they were like, wow, they could be something because that defense is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And then now the offense has started to pick up its role. And now, again, like habitual franchise that it is Dallas, by Thanksgiving, they're starting to do another complete turn. And we're here now. It's questionable if they're going to win a playoff game.
Yeah.
They are notorious for losing the first playoff game they get to. They can't get past the wild card hump. And we all know for years now, Tom Brady in the playoffs is a different caliber of player than he is during the season. He had one of his worst statistical regular seasons this year.
Mm-hmm.
Postseason Tom Brady is a different animal. And if you come in low, beaten, and neutered, like you say, like they were just neutered last week with Dallas, he is salivating, waiting for you to come into his home field with that energy.
Mm-hmm.
He wants you to come in off of a loss like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's the first quarterback that will step on your throat if you come in off of a bad loss. And it's easy for him to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's... let's look at this game not as Dak against Brady. Brady against that defense. That defense has not been great the last couple weeks. It has given up a lot of points against a lot of different teams. It gave up offensively against Jacksonville, 34 points. Against Gardner Minshew and the Eagles, 34 points. Against last week against the Commanders, 19 points because Dak had the pick six. Right. But either way, your offense cannot seem to get it done. I mean, it can, but it's not consistently doing it. Right. Dallas is 4-4 on the road. They are dead even going into the road. So, like, if they were home, if this game was in Jerry World, this would be a different game.
Maybe.
But, they did not win the games that they needed to in order to, obviously they beat Philly, but that loss to Jacksonville really cost them that division. Right. And that's really where the whole, the tide turned for the Cowboys. And I think teams that, if we're looking at, again, Tom Brady against that Dallas defense, I would give it to Brady because they have not been playing well, and we're going to see a lot of quick passes from Brady. We're going to see a lot of passes that he snaps the ball less than 2 seconds, he's going to get rid of it.
Well, that's been his career.
It's been his career, but like we know what that Dallas defense can do. So he's not even going to give them the opportunity to do that.
Right, he's going to take their best player out, and that's Trayvon Diggs.
And now you look at flip the coin, that Dallas offense against that Buccaneers defense. If they can't get that run game going, their offense is going to struggle.
They're going to suffer. They're going to absolutely suffer.
But if they can run the ball, then they have a good shot.
Yeah, but the big word is if. They're so and again, it's really, we spoke about it earlier this season when it comes to the game of attrition, and we've been talking about it all episode. You have to be able to play late, and the inconsistency of Dallas late in the season is habitual, and it's like a cancer for Dallas that they cannot. Number one, they can't play in the cold. They cannot play in the cold. Once the winter hits, they're just a different team, And maybe that's their downfall, but maybe because if they're going into Tampa, it'll be a little bit warmer. It'll be more to their favor versus having to go to anywhere cold. Like, let's say they had to go and play the Giants for a round 3. They wouldn't fare anywhere nearly as good. Or if they had to go into Minnesota, they can't play in the cold. So I'm hoping in Tampa, it's going to be chilly, but it's not going to be what it's supposed to be for winter for them.
Well, if the NFC shapes up as you have predicted, then Dallas would then winner of this game would then go to San Francisco to play San Francisco. So that is a tall order in and of itself.
With not counting the weather.
With not counting the weather. And I'm obviously San Francisco, that's sunny and fine, but even still, like, the 49ers team is tough. And then if somehow whoever beats the Niners, they would probably then go to Philly. And that's going to be a tall order too, because it is cold in Philly. But nevertheless, this is going to be, honestly, I think it's going to go a little differently than week one. I think Dallas is going to do enough to stay alive in the game, but Tom Brady's going to have the ball last. And we're going to see another Tom Brady drive
down the field to win.
To go down the field to win. I could just see it happening. So, Chris Palmer, who you got? Because I got the Bucs.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tampa on surely because business as usual for Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
Playoff Tom Brady versus playoff Dallas Cowboys. I'll take Tom Brady 100 times out of 100.
Tom Brady with his 35 playoff wins.
35 playoff wins to a franchise of bad playoff games.
Dak Prescott has one playoff win.
All right, guys. There it is. Playoff weekend is underway. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if you agree, disagree. Let us know who you got for the week. We are excited. Again, huge shout out to Damar Hamlin. Glad you're home safe. Peyton Hillis, you are continue to be in our prayers. And we will be here next week to talk about next week's games.
Oh, I'm excited, brother. So everyone have a good week, and we'll catch you next week.